What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another solo leveling Arise video. All right, guys, I want to do this real quick. We are a couple days away from receiving our first free GUNHEE character in our little event here that's going on, right? This box, we got 3 days left for those who have been waiting for him. So I do want to go over his kit and talk about him and why I think he's going to be pretty damn impressive now that we finally have a full-on kit. A couple changes have happened from the leaks. I don't want to use any of the leaks from Alpha Leaker. Shout out to Alpha, of course, for providing all the content creators the ability to see in the future and kind of plan, but things have changed. Right, and I think just with how many things have changed with him, I'd rather just wait till he comes out and do full-on testing. But I do want to review his kit with you guys and talk a little bit about his weapon, his overall usefulness, why I think he actually looks pretty damn impressive, and where I think you guys should be stopping if you plan to get him. Now, there have been rumblings, by the way, about getting two free copies of him. I don't want to get into that because I don't know the truth. I haven't seen it anywhere. Someone did send me a snapshot of it. I'll show you guys real quick what I'm referring to just in a second. Let me see if I can find it. If I can, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Sorry, let me close this over here. This is the last video. But I do want to show you guys what I'm referring to. Somebody sent me this. I won't say the person's name just because in case it's wrong, I don't want to have any problems for them. But this was something that was provided to me. And you look at 1545 loyalty. I have no idea what loyalty tier 3 is. But if you see here, it says 1545 GUNHEE data. Now, this looks like it's an event of some sort that's going to be happening. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. I don't know what to say about it. That's why I don't want to talk too much about it. So there have been rumblings about getting another version of him for free, so an A1. But right now, let's just focus on A0 because that's all I really know. Okay, again, I'm not going to get into rumors until I find out what's really real, and then we'll talk more about that when it comes. So at A0, let's talk a little bit about GUNHEE. Now, if you want to look at him, you can view him through the codex, by the way. He is available through the codex. Let me go to him real quick, and you guys can see him right over here. And just click on him. Let's show you everything he wants. Okay, so a couple things. Let's start from the top to the bottom. We'll just cover everything. Okay, first off, min max. So this is min level 1, max level 5, or sorry, level 85. So HP 92, defense 50k, or sorry 5k, attack 4k. You guys all know he scales off of defense. Here's the problem with him scaling off of defense versus attack, or versus HP. HP is obviously a much more dominant stat because it's so much higher, right? Having lower defense like this, being the second highest stat by almost half, is a pretty big deal. So this is kind of the big issue with him, is they should have really scaled him off HP if they really wanted him to be a better breaker. But I digress. We're talking about him anyways, right? This is his chroma. For those who are wondering, you can get yourself this right here, which I think looks pretty damn cool. But of course, no other skins have been out for him. But I like the OG look personally, so I'm going to stick with that. All right, let's talk about his weapon. Now, his weapon versus Hansi Mi's weapons. This is, I think, an important topic to discuss. So I'm going to talk to you guys about both and give you my suggestion. All right, so his weapon at A1, the user's defense increases by 4% when using Fighting Spirit or Heavy Attack Fighting Spirit, which, by the way, is we'll talk more about in the video. The light damage dealt to the target increases by 4% for 15 seconds. Just so you guys are aware, that is only light damage, right? So it's going to be strictly good for him and anyone who's a light user, including Jinnu if he's using light weapons or light skills. At A10, you're looking at fighting defense increased by 10%, and then the damage for light goes up by 10%. So you can really see he's built to support light more than he is anything else. So let's compare that real quick to Hansi Mi's weapon. Okay, and who you should be choosing between the two of them. So here's the one that I got, right? This here overall is way better. Okay, so the reason why is, number one, it increases her HP by 4%, which is irrelevant really at the end of the day, if you really think about it. I mean, it's not irrelevant, but it's not that big. But this is where it matters. Increases damage taken by 5% for 4 seconds to targets hit by Hansi Mi's skill. If you look here now, increases damage by 5% for 10 seconds. So it increases the percentage not by much, but at least you get another 10 seconds out of it. And quite honestly, that extra damage increase, that 5% damage increase is worth it. Right? Sorry, it doesn't increase the damage increase. My apology. It increases the seconds only. But nonetheless, that extra 5% damage increase is for everybody, not just light. So I think overall hers is a much better weapon to choose from. And not to mention, all she has to do is just hit the target. She's constantly attacking, right? So every skill she has is an attack practically. So even though she's a healer, MP recoverer, etc., 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 all of her moves will always hit the opponent. So this is a much smarter weapon to go for because overall you're adding more debuffs to the opponent for everyone to take advantage of. So now you have yourself punishment, you have Libora's charm, you have Libora's weapon to buff everybody, you have Min's weapon to buff everybody. Now you have her weapon to debuff everybody or the opponent, letting everybody hit harder. Smarter decision, in my opinion, going for her weapon over his. Just so everyone's aware, that's my thoughts on it. Now, let's go over the actual skills this man possesses and why I think he's actually going to be a pretty big force to be reckoned with in the solo leveling Arise world. And you guys should not really, you know, skip him, quote unquote, skip him. Even with A0, I think you guys should go a little further. But here, I'll explain the reason why. All right, so first off, main thing to note, everything has a break in it, but everything is weak break, okay? So I know people are struggling with that concept. Hell, so am I. What the hell's the difference between a weak break, medium break, heavy break, when weak break does as much as a heavy break in some cases? It's weird. I'm not sure. They need to really give us some breakdowns of like, hey, you know what? If this is orange, I can click it. Weak break equals 10% of the bar. Heavy equals 30% of the bar. Medium equals, like, give us those kind of breakdowns, right? It makes more sense. Anyways, so you guys can see here, I'll show you the previews of each attack, right? This is a basic attack here. He does a couple punches. Looks pretty sweet, I have to admit. Big fan of that one. Here's the core attack, Abdominal Crush. Right there, does airborne and knockdown. This is the Fighting Spirit, and this can be advanced to Heavy Fighting Spirit eventually, and we'll talk more about that as well. Again, weak break there. Weak break here as well, too, where he does this, increasing... kind of like a vacuum effect, right? Again, this does a lot of break damage, but I think it's because it's multiple hits. Maybe I could be wrong. All right, so there's QTEs called Instant Destruction. Now this is kind of cool. It does give an aura to GUNHEE, which increases his defense by 10%. Might not sound like a lot, but I'll explain why it's somewhat useful. It gives him a shield as well, and also increases GUNHEE's light damage by 10%. Now this is cool because GUNHEE has a armor break skill that uses both attack and defense scaling, and also is one of the best breaking skills in the game. So this will just boost that. Plus any light weapons he uses is going to increase damage by 10%, or any light skills he uses is going to increase by 10%. So this is a pretty good support skill to help GUNHEE just pump out more damage, right, overall. And then if you go here to the clean sweep, this is his QTE. This is going to be useful for a couple of reasons. We'll talk more about that. And then his ultimate here as well too, which has very, very high percentages. But again, because it scales off of defense, it doesn't really matter. And at A3, it does Almighty Break. And again, we'll talk more about that. Now, his overall kit's not that impressive, to be honest, but if you look at his passives, this is where it gets really interesting. So the Broken Vessel effect applies right away. What is Broken Vessel? You're going to ask probably. So here's how it changed. It used to be that he can't recover HP at all. They've actually changed that. The Broken Vessel now decreases his HP recovery rate by 50%. So he can, in fact, recover HP just at half of the rate as everybody else. So you can keep him alive with healing. Now, when he uses Clean Sweep, which is this skill here, this skill here, where is it? His QTE and the Abdominal Crush. Okay, so those two skills right there. Let me go back to the skill, sorry. So when he uses Clean Sweep or Fighting Spirit. So when he uses QTE or his Fighting Spirit, it applies the Ruler's Aura. Okay, so Ruler's Aura increases the user's defense by 30%. He also gets a shield based off 20% of his defense. And then when the user uses Power of Brilliant Light, which is this skill right here, right? This the second skill. He then gets something else. He gets himself the Fragment of Brilliant Light effect. So this effect here is where most of his damage is going to come from. Activates the core attack one time. So this core attack becomes Heavy Attack Abdominal Crush, and their damage increases by 30%. So your core attack does more. Your Fighting Spirit, which is this first skill, becomes Heavy Attack Fighting Spirit and increases the user's damage by 30%. So overall, both of your main attacks are going to be doing a ton of damage. So this attack here is really used to activate these two attacks. All right, this is at A0. So you can see here, he actually can pump out a little bit of damage based on his kit. Now, A1. This is where most free-to-play will stop, and rightfully so. When the user uses Fighting Spirit, this here, or Heavy Fighting Spirit, it activates their core attack, right? So now you have a secondary core attack. When the user uses Fighting Spirit or Heavy Attack Fighting Spirit, their core attack becomes Heavy Attack Abdominal Crush for 15 seconds. When the user uses Power of Brilliant Light, it applies the Will of Brilliant Light, which is this skill right there, to all team members. For each light member in the party, the user's light damage increases by 5% and the critical hit damage increases by 5%. So this will now activate for him and Cha and Min, making Cha and him hit harder. And obviously this is important because Min obviously provides you more crit damage from his ult, plus provides you the crit rate increase at A1 if you have Min at that point. So they complement each other very, very well. And we know that Cha obviously scales off of crit and crit damage and attack. So this is a great buff for her, hopefully making her a better unit again. All right, A2. Increases break effectiveness by 20%. Obviously very important because you want to break faster. A3 is where most people are going to want to go to and probably stop. A1 is good enough for free-to-play players. A3 if you want to push, if you really like the character. When you use Supernova, it deals almighty break damage, obviously making the break bar disappear practically. And you also get yourself the ruler aura effect, which is now enhanced, which increases the user's defense by 30%. You guys can see here the aura you gave 30%, you gave a shield at 20%, but here's the difference now, right? That part stayed the same, but now you actually reduce the damage you take by 20% as well for 10 seconds. So now you have damage reduction as well too, making him even tankier than he was before, which of course is important because he has a 50% healing rate instead of a 100% healing rate. If you decide to be a whale and push further, or a dolphin, 12% damage defense increase is not that big of a deal. Defense again is a small number, but then the third one here is important because the damage of Supernova increases by 30% when delta targets that possess a break gauge. So this is not going to apply to the dragon, but the next part will, right? So when Supernova hits a target that doesn't have a break gauge, it grants the will of the fragment effect to team members, and this increases the user's critical hit damage by 30% and the QTE damage by 100%. So the QTE damage obviously does not matter in the dragon fight, but it does matter here with the 30% extra crit damage, which is massive for 20 seconds. Now, why is this important? Why does this matter? Well, because if you have Min on your team, he's going to give you power gauge increase very, very often, which means you're going to ult faster. The only downfall, of course, is the cooldown, but this 30% extra crit damage is massive for 20 seconds for everybody to have, and that's gonna be big in those fights. That's gonna boost your damage quite a bit. So whales are definitely gonna want to push him to that point. So there you guys go. Overall, his passives are very impressive. His skills themselves, they're average. There's nothing really to compare to, right? They're just average breaks. But his passives make him very, very good. Not only is he being an amazing breaker, but he also comes off as an amazing tank and also an incredible supporter for especially light units. And even further, he's going to do some pretty damn good DPS. So there you guys have it. So I know a lot of you guys were looking to skip him. I personally think he's going to be worth it, but I will be doing a full-on A0 to A5 test, showing you guys numbers, showing you guys data, and we'll see exactly where you want to stop and how good he actually is in these battles. So we got 3 days left, guys. I can't wait to do this. This is Payne. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.